The Giants need to think about their long-term future. It's enough of Daniel Jones. We'll talk about that, plus reaction to the NFL's trade deadline. It's the Jake Asman Football Show, and it starts right now.
Oh, yeah. It's time for the Jake Asman Football Show. Brought to you by BetUS. Expert betting odds and fantasy stats. So let's get into some NFL football. Brought to you by our friends at BetUS. So get your questions ready. Here's your host, Jake Asman.
Here we go. Welcome in, everyone. It is indeed the Jake Asman Football Show. We're coming at you live multiple times a week, and we'll be live again tomorrow morning when we bring on Cole Thompson a few days earlier than normal to react to the NFL trade deadline and get his thoughts on a big day around the league. But, of course, we are presented by BetUS, as you see up there on the screen. Make sure you sign up. Use promo code YouTube150, and you can enjoy a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, a 125% sign-up bonus with your second and third deposit. So take advantage. BetUS has been a great sponsor of the show, and they offer the best sports book you are going to find for any sport, but especially for the sport we talk about on this show, the NFL. All right, let's talk about the New York Giants here because I am just confused by what's happening with them at this point. So the Giants are playing the Panthers Sunday in Germany. Carolina is actually coming in off a win. So you have the Giants favored in a game for the first time in like 2 years. Giants lost on Sunday to the Commanders. They're now 2-7. They've lost 4 in a row. And in this game on Sunday, Daniel Jones did not play terrible. He really didn't. He threw for 2 touchdowns. He ran for another one, showed toughness on the play he ran in. But he did have a brutal fumble in the first quarter that directly led to a Commanders score. And at 2-7, the New York Giants season is cooked, right? I think we all could agree the Giants are not winning any more games. Daniel Jones will not be the quarterback next year for the New York Giants. He just won't be. You look at his contract when he signed it a few years ago. It was basically a 2-year deal, and then we'll see. If you look at the details of said contract, Daniel Jones has a $23 million injury guarantee for next year if he can't pass a physical in the offseason. What's the thing we know about Daniel Jones in his career? Besides the fact he hasn't won a lot of games as a starting quarterback, hasn't been very good in prime time. What do we know about Daniel Jones? He's been hurt a lot. He's been hurt a lot in his career. He's dealt with some serious injuries in his career. Season-ending injuries. Torn ACL last year. Couple of years ago, the neck issue ended his season. This is a guy who's been banged up. You look at the games played in Daniel Jones' career, how many times has he started a full year since he's been a full-time starter? The answer? Just once. 2020, he only started 14 games. 2021, only 11 games. 2022, that was the outlier year. 2023, 6 games. Last year, just 9. If Daniel Jones gets hurt in a meaningless game now for the Giants, how stupid could your franchise be? He should be sitting. You're not going anywhere. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Drew Lock or maybe Tommy DeVito, they're better quarterbacks than Daniel Jones. But at this point, every decision the Giants should be making should be about their future. And I don't know if Brian Dable or Joe Shane are going to be here. But ultimately, John Mara should step in and say, we can't play Daniel Jones anymore because we can't take the risk of him getting hurt and impacting our cap for next year. And we could debate if Joe Shane, the GM of this team, and Brian Dable, the head coach, if they've earned the right to go out there and potentially draft the succession plan at quarterback, draft the long-term starter. We know they flirted with the idea this past offseason, but that led to nothing. But if I'm the New York Giants, I'm not playing Daniel Jones so we could win some games late when it means nothing. Last year, the Giants looked destined for a top 3 pick, and they won some meaningless games late, including a game at the end of the year with Tyrod Taylor against Philadelphia. And instead of having a potential top 3 pick, the Giants picking 6 missed out on Jaden Daniels, who they wanted, and Drake May, who they wanted. Boy, would they love to have Jaden Daniels right now, don't you think? For years, the Giants would always own the Washington Commies, even when the Giants haven't been good for much of this past decade. since their last Super Bowl win. They would always beat Washington. That was the one team they'd beat. Now Washington swept the Giants for the first time in a very long time. They're now 7-2 for the first time since 1996. They have passed you. The Eagles have obviously passed the Giants. As bad as the Cowboys might be, they beat the Giants head-to-head when they played. So what is the strategy for the Giants? I think you got to sit Daniel Jones. The Giants' problems are not all Daniel Jones. But ultimately, we're 6 years in, and Daniel Jones is what he is. And you don't want him to get hurt next year, and then you have to deal with his injury guarantee. You don't want him to get hurt at the end of this year, and then his $23 million is affecting your cap for next year when he won't be here. We will never see a quarterback like Daniel Jones again. He has started 2-6 or worse in 5 of his 6 years as a starter. He's only thrown for 20-plus touchdown passes in a single year once. His career record is 24, 43, and 1. He's 1-15 in primetime. He just threw his first touchdown pass at MetLife Stadium in 2 years. The Chiefs had won 2 Super Bowls since the last time Jones threw a touchdown pass at MetLife until this past Sunday. Once again, he's not their only problem, but you got to think about your long-term future. And I watched Brian Daboll win some games with Tommy DeVito. I think he could coach. I think he should get a chance as an offensive bright mind in this sport to work with a young quarterback. So I'm sitting Daniel Jones, the same reason why Denver sat down Russell Wilson last year. The Raiders sat down Jimmy Garoppolo. You don't want to take the risk that these guys get hurt and they impact your long-term future. They impact your salary cap. But look, the Giants are a mess right now, and you really don't know what their long-term plan is going forward. Because you look at where the Giants are, how do they get better? It's not all just the quarterback. This GM has not done a good enough job drafting players. I mean, how bad of a draft pick does Deonte Banks appear to be? How big of a bust is Evan Neal? This past Sunday, Evan Neal was on the field for 1 snap. He reported in as a tackle eligible on a 2-yard touchdown pass that Jones threw to Chris Manhertz. 7th overall pick. This guy can't start on one of the worst teams in the league. So Joe Shane's got to get some criticism for that. He's also the one who paid Daniel Jones and let Saquon Barkley, who's having an all-pro season in Philadelphia, walk over a couple $1 million. Jalen Hyatt, how's he looking? 4 snaps on Sunday. Daniel Bellinger, how's he looking? 14 snaps on Sunday. I mean, I have major questions about this general manager. He'll be going into his 4th year, so we can no longer blame Dave Gettleman for all of the Giants' issues. And it's not all Daniel Jones, but if the Giants were smart, they would sit Daniel Jones today. Don't let him play against the Carolina Panthers in Germany, and then you win that game, and it's like, well, now we can't bench him. You bench him now. You bench him now. Makes no sense. Giants have a lot of issues. Daniel Jones is not their only issue, but that to me is a move you could make that shows the fan base, more importantly, you're serious about your future beyond this year, that you recognize this year's not good enough. You know, John Mara said he expected significant improvement. He's not getting it. This team's lucky if they win 5 games. Lucky. Where are the wins coming from? You're watching the Jake Asman Football Show. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. We'll have Cole Thompson on with us tomorrow, a couple days earlier than normal, to react to the NFL trade deadline. Let me give you some quick takes on this before we wrap up another football show here presented by BetUS. You look at some of the moves that were made today, and I believe what the Commanders did, trading for Marshawn Lattimore, the stud Pro Bowl corner from the New Orleans Saints, sends a message to the rest of the NFL. The Commanders solidify their secondary. And the Commanders at 7-2, they look around the league. They look around their own division, and they realize, we got the team, man. We could do it. Who cares if we've been bad? We got the quarterback. Dan Quinn should get Coach of the Year votes. Let's go all in. They traded 25 picks in the 3rd and 4th round to go out and get Lattimore. And you know what? He signed for the next 2 years at a reasonable salary for a guy of his stature. It's an awesome move by the Commanders. Commanders still have 7 picks in 2025. Washington was lacking corner depth. And they went out there and they got one of the better corners you could find that was potentially available. This was a big-time move by a team that is now one of the more up-and-coming teams we'll point to in the league. They got the quarterback. They seemingly got the coach. They got playmakers around the quarterback. The Washington Commies are for real, and this move today signifies that. I thought that was the move of the day amongst any team making trades on deadline day. Another great move was made by the Lions. I'm shocked by the return. They acquired Zadarius Smith from Cleveland. And they really didn't seemingly have to give up much. 2025 5th rounder, 2026 6th rounder. That's it. Smith has 5 sacks in 9 games. 3-time Pro Bowler. Look, he's not Aiden Hutchinson. Nobody is. But that's a good move by the Lions. Clearly all in as well. And rightfully so, to make that kind of move. A puzzling trade that happened today that I wanted to hit on. What the heck are the Cowboys doing? What are the Cowboys doing? We watched the Bills trade a 3rd, the Jets trade a 3rd for their stud receivers, right? Amari Cooper, 3rd round pick. Devontae Adams, 3rd round pick. DeAndre Hopkins only went for a 5th round pick. What is the rationale behind Dallas trading a 4th round pick to the Panthers for wide receiver Jonathan Mingo? He has 12 catches for 121 yards this season. He has 1 catch in the past 4 games and has only 2 games in his career with more than 4 catches. He's been buried on the depth chart. Why would Dallas, on a day in which they have to put Dak Prescott, their quarterback, on injured reserve, and they're 3-5 on the season, why the heck would Dallas trade this much capital for Jonathan Mingo? I mean, the Jets traded a 3rd to get Devontae Adams. He's still a star. The Bills traded a 3rd for Amari Cooper. He's still a star-level player. Hopkins had 2 touchdowns last night for Kansas City. They only traded a 5th. Dallas is trading a 4th, so Cooper Rush could throw the football to Jonathan Mingo. Jerry Jones is off his rocker. This makes no sense. No sense at all. Couldn't believe this deal. I thought there was a typo. Ridiculous. But Jerry's good at Jerry. The other move that happened, and I discussed this on my normal Jet show, Mike Williams going for a 5th round pick. I think it's a bit of an overpay given the market by Pittsburgh, but they were desperate. They needed the receiver, and Mike Williams with the Jets, it just didn't work out. He was never on the same page with Rodgers. Coming off the ACL, he didn't have a training camp, so he missed out on variable reps. And once Rodgers didn't trust him, I mean, that was it for Mike Williams, who I don't think the Jets ever properly utilized. I think at Pittsburgh, he's a much better fit. Now, I don't think he's going to be great, but you know what? Russell Wilson could throw the deep ball up in the air. Some of those deep balls that we saw George Pickens make on Sunday Night Football a couple of weeks back, last week on Monday Night Football, some of those passes now could go to Mike Williams. Maybe he could find some success with Russ throwing him the football. Wouldn't surprise me. So I think it's a little bit of an overpay for Pittsburgh, but you know what? You're in first place. You're all in. Why not? Why not? You know you have the coaching. You have a lot of talent on this team. You badly needed a receiver. Take a shot with Mike Williams. So from a Steelers perspective, I like the move. From a Jet perspective, didn't love it. Allen Lazard is still on injured reserve. He's out another 3 games. And we're talking about a Jets team right now that in 11 personnel, your number 3 receiver is Xavier Gibson. Now, maybe this opens up some opportunity for Malachi Corley to play a role on the team. The Jets' first-year wide receiver out of Western Kentucky, who they traded up for at the beginning of the third. But we haven't seen it yet. We have not seen it yet. So those are some of the moves that we've seen around the NFL today on the trade deadline day. We'll talk more about it tomorrow with Cole Thompson. Once again, we are, of course, presented by BetUS. Start betting on any sport anytime with BetUS. Check out their website and take advantage of a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit right now. Thank you to BetUS for sponsoring. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Once again, my name is Jake Asman. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. We talk football multiple times a week. We're back tomorrow morning with Cole Thompson to get his thoughts on the deadline and much more. Thanks again, everyone, for your support. Hope everyone has a great night. And, of course, God bless America.